Why do you say that, Father? You aren't afraid, are you?
No, but I respect some of the superstitions of others. Often they are founded in fact.
Broadcasting from our Sanctum Sanctorum in Venice, California. This is the Sixth Sense Society. I'm your host, Krista, here with our producer, Michael. And today you are watching Spell It Out, Magic, Reflections, and Shadow, where I get to pick the topic and rant and do all kinds of things. So today I'm going to be sharing with you my experience of working with the beautiful Tibetan Buddhist deity Tara, and what it has done for me doing a daily mantra with her for many years now. But before we get started, Michael has a few announcements.
Hi, everybody, and thank you guys so much for supporting our show. We keep getting new subscribers. It makes us really, really happy. So if you are watching us on YouTube, please click the subscribe button. Helps out a lot. We've got some really great shows coming up. We have in September, we're going to be taking a break next week for Labor Day, so we'll be back after Labor Day. So our next show will be the 8th of September. We're going to have Dr. George Schwimmer back on, Krista's dad. He'll be talking about a couple of different psychics that he's had experiences with, and we're going to maybe get into some of our own experiences with psychic stuff. So that should be a lot of fun. And then Karen Fresca is back, and she's going to be doing a show for us as well. And then we have all kinds of great stuff coming up also in October. We have Mystic Mitten back. We're going to have Jackie Smith back talking about Samhain. We're going to have Madame Zulema back and talking about the Day of the Dead. So all kinds of really cool stuff coming up for Halloween. Of course, we like to do Halloween themed stuff in October. So we're always going to have fun with that. That's always great. Please get all the information on our website, sixthsensesociety.com, SIXTH. It's all spelled out. Please subscribe to our newsletter. We put out a quarterly newsletter with some links to some of our favorite episodes and things. So that's always a lot of fun. And it'll just help you guys to know what's up and what's going on. And then also buy us a coffee on Ko-Fi. You know, we have a link there, and it helps us cover some of the cost of the show. So it's really, really great, and really helps us a little bit, because it definitely costs a little bit to do the show. So if you can support us, buy us a coffee. If not, then enjoy the show anyway, because we really want to entertain all you guys. We're having a lot of fun doing it, and we hope to do it for a long time to come. So with that, I don't want to take up any more of your time, so I'm going to kick it back to Krista, and have a great show.
Great. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, my dad wrote me and he said he's going to be talking about, as part of the show, two healers. One is Sir Jason Williams T-E-A. I think that actually might be what he sells, though. I'm not quite sure about that. And then also the healer Antonio Silva. And then we're going to share some of our psychic stories. So just to fill you in a little bit about that, my dad always has a lot of interesting experiences. So let's get on to the topic of today's show, which I have way too much to talk about, as she is a deity I've been working with for many years now, and there's so much about her available. But I will talk first about how I met the Tibetan Buddhist beloved, very popular goddess Tara. When I was 23, I was living in New York City, and I went to live in a house share with a woman who was a Tibetan Buddhist. And through her, I met Khenpo Karthar Rinpoche, who became my teacher. And I very quickly went up to the monastery in Woodstock. And there they have, in the morning, their first practice is the green Tara practice. And I know it starts like somewhere around 5 or 6 in the morning. And so I would attend that when I was up there, even though I didn't know much about her. It was fine to do that. In fact, one of the nice things about working with Tara is anyone can work with Tara without any kind of special permission or empowerment. And you can also work with Tara from any religion. In fact, we're going to talk about how she sort of comes in other cultures too. So that was my first experience of the Tara practice. And it was green Tara, who is probably one of the most popular alongside white Tara. And we'll talk a little bit about the different emanations a little later on in the show. But that's how I met her. And I fell in love with her for several reasons. One of the reasons I was thinking about recently is because she has different colors and different aspects. She is a full-bodied goddess. She's her wrathful side and her peaceful side have not been separated. So she's very organic that way and holistic. And even though the wrathful deity isn't not what you think on some level, there's still elements of strength with Tara and her ability to fight the ego, or that destroy the ego is intact, and that's not true of all the goddesses through history, where their stronger side has been separated. So that's a little bit about my story about meeting Tara, and a little bit about her. I jumped ahead. And I wanted to also first talk about mantra practice in general, because I started out with doing long pujas, and I had the time for it, but also the will for it. So I had stopped doing some of the lengthy pujas, which can take, up to an hour a day, when I came across this book, Healing Mantras by Thomas Ashley Farrand. And that was around 8 years ago. And it's an excellent book on the practice of mantras in general. And it's very detailed. I learned things about mantra practice I never knew about. He's an Indian or Vedic priest, and he knows so much about it, and also has a very great writing style. So I totally recommend that book just to learn about the different aspects of mantra practice. So when I found that book, he suggested people can do mantras for very specific problems. And I'd never really done that, even though Tara will help you with whatever you need. She is one of the goddesses that will help you with both mundane problems and also more esoteric problems, and there's no problem with that. So in the book, he talks about there's two traditional disciplines around that. You can do a 20-day practice where you recite a particular mantra that you pick all the time, silently, out loud, just constantly. And then there's the 40-day practice, which is the one I decided to use, where you ideally want to do a morning round and evening round. It can be simply one full mala, or one rosary in a sense. And there's 108 beads, so you're doing it 108 times in the morning and in the evening. Though I wasn't perfect with my practice, I was pretty disciplined overall, I would say. And the idea is that you pick a mantra to help you with a specific problem. And so I did. I was having a lot of problems with the IRS, and it was a very unfair situation. And even though I was working on it and trying to work on it, I could not get any results. So that's when I said, I'm desperate enough. I need some enlightened help. And it worked. I don't remember at that point how many mantras. I think I did it more than once, the 40-day, but eventually it led me to the right person who was able to take my case and win it. And I was the only one that year that struck a deal that he had worked with the IRS. And it was a very, very generous deal. And I was really, really happy. So I tried all the mundane ways, and once I started doing the mantras, it led me to the right person. And that's the idea, is that it helps open up sort of different avenues for success and bring those sort of, miracles in a sense that may not seem so miraculous to someone else. But for me, it was, because it really had been a very big challenge. So I started doing it, and then I realized, like, any kind of practice, that it was just really good for my mind to do a daily mantra practice. I could fit it in, I could do it, I really enjoyed it. So from there, it sort of bloomed into a daily mantra practice that I've been doing at least 7 years now, with Tara and different forms of Tara. So let's talk a little bit about Tara in particular. So Tara is incredibly popular in Tibetan Buddhism, and many of the great teachers have a relationship with some aspect of Tara, whether it's white Tara. For instance, Khenpo Karta Rinpoche did a white Tara retreat when he was very ill, and he believes it really helped him save his life. And that was also recommended by the Karmapa to Khenpo Rinpoche. And white Tara, one of the benefits of white Tara is longevity and health. And so there are other stories about Tara rescuing people and helping them through many difficult times. So she is very quick to respond to your pleas and your help. She's a very compassionate deity. The thing that as I got to know her more, what really appealed to me is one of her origin stories, which I'm going to talk about. There's like 3 that I have found so far about her origins and how she came to be. But she's the savioress. She's called the mother of all the Buddhas. She's the feminine aspect of enlightenment. She will also protect and guard one against the 8 fears, which I will also go over quickly and list them and what they are. And many people know her as having 21 emanations. Sorry, I had to take a quick drink there. So I've been studying some of the more difficult texts on Tara, and it looks like there are a lot of Taras, even of there's different practices of different red Taras, and they're actually different Taras. So she's very, very complex, and you will never be bored with learning about Tara, because not only are there many books, but there are many published books, and a lot of the teachers love to share their knowledge about Tara. So you'll always find it's rewarding in that way. However, today's show is about ordinary people like me who don't have time to go to retreats or even do long practices, and how it is hugely beneficial to do even a short mantra practice daily. I cannot tell you how much it has helped me. I noticed another reason why I wanted to do a daily Tara mantra after I'd seen the success with the IRS was I was waking up every day with this knot in my stomach. And at the time, life was actually pretty good. There was nothing really to be worried about, unusually so. And I really decided I don't want to have this feeling anymore. I don't know why I'm so anxious. And one of the things that Tara is connected to is helping you with any kind of fear. Now, fear, there's the outer representation of the fears with Tara, the 8 fears that are mentioned in some of the text on Tara. And then there's the inner manifestation that it represents. So the actual 8 fears, I always forget 1 or 2 for some reason. So I'm going to get my note card here. The first one is the fear of drowning, and it's associated inwardly with the flood of attachment. The second are thieves, and you can see the inner being wrong views, so you can call it the thieves of wrong views. The third are lions, and the inner is pride. The fourth is snakes, and the inner is jealousy. The fifth outer one is fire. The inner one's anger. The sixth one I really love, flesh-eating demons. I guess they exist. And it's connected inwardly to doubt. And the seventh is imprisonment, which is connected to miserliness inside. And the last is elephants, which is connected to ignorance. So there are these outer manifestations she rescues you from, and also inwardly. And, you know, all of the yidams in the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, and I can't really speak to the Indian, though a lot, Tara comes from the Indian tradition. Originally, I think she's connected to Durga. They are very layered in symbolic meaning, and you can work on different levels of the deity. One of the things I was at, and a Green Tara empowerment, there was Kempo Ujin Tenzin, I'm probably not saying that right. He came to the Santa Monica KTC. It was sometime, I think, in 2018. And he gave a Green Tara empowerment and a brief teaching on it. So one of the things I really learned and I really liked in his teaching is he broke down the word yidam, which is what the deities are called. And he said yid means mind, and dam means control. So it's a method of protecting the mind so that it's not overwhelmed by emotions. And I always really loved yidam practices when I was really doing a lot of the longer practices. And it does feel that way when you work with a yidam because you're busy visualizing all of the aspects of the yidam. So it's a method of protecting the mind. And ultimately you are that yidam, and yet at the same time, there seems to be no contradiction that the yidam can also exist outside of you as an experience, so that people that actually see the manifestation of Tara and talk about it. That's a very Eastern view, and the Western mind has a little bit of difficulty with that for some reason. So there are three main, there's two main origin stories of Tara, and there's one that's kind of funny that I came across. I'll tell you the funny one that I found. I mean, funny being, it is kind of odd, I would say. And it's not as commonly known that according to a couple of sources I found, long before humans, Avalokiteshvara was a monkey living in the Yarlung Valley of Tibet, and Tara was an abominable snow lady living in nearby crevices. They became friends, fell in love, mated, and gave birth to the first 6 humans. So that's the one I've never heard of. So perhaps they're related to Bigfoot. I don't know. That might be an interesting story in there. And then the other 2 are very well known. There's the one where she is born from the tears of Avalokiteshvara, who in despair says, I can't help all these beings. And every time I help a certain amount of beings, there's still more people that need helping in all the realms. And so she's said to come from the tears of Avalokiteshvara. But my favorite story is the feminist story. I see it as a feminist story of Tara. And she was at one point a princess named Yeshe Dawa, or a moon of primordial wisdom. And in that lifetime, she developed this great thought of bodhicitta. And due to her devotion to the Buddha of that time, which was a different Buddha than Shakyamuni Buddha, she was gaining some, I guess, credit in a sense, and she was doing very well spiritually, so she wasn't yet enlightened, but the Buddha was pleased with her. So there was a monk, or some people say there's more than one monk, but a monk advised her that if she wanted to become enlightened, that she needed to pray to be in a male incarnation in her next life, so that only in a male body could she be enlightened, according to this monk. So instead, she basically told him, well, that's not true. Enlightenment has nothing to do with gender. So because of that, she vowed to not only attain enlightenment as a female, but to always come back in a female body. And so she has. So that's really put that guy in his place, that monk. So, though that was not her intention. Her intention was to say, hey, it doesn't matter what gender you are. You can be enlightened in any body. But I think it's very cool that she did take not only the female form to become enlightened, but also stayed in the female form. So that's why I really like her. And then there are sort of, if you look at her colors, there are many, colors, but there's 4 categories in which the colors connect. And the different categories have different activities. So there's pacifying, increasing, magnifying, and wrathful. So an example of a pacifying one would be white Tara with the white color. And there's also, there's the one associated with wealth is yellow, and I'm not going to pronounce her name because I know I'll get that wrong. But there's some really beautiful descriptions of all of the Taras in the 21 Taras, Praise to 21 Taras text, and also some of the differences that they help you with, so that, maybe you want to hone in on something particular and work with that mantra. And I've worked with 3 different Tara mantras at this point deeply. I mean, I've worked with them for a while, particularly the green Tara. And there are different experiences I have found with working with them. And I was really fortunate when I started this reconnecting to Tara. I drew into my life two teachers, and one of them was really unexpected, and it was because of my husband. He saw a flyer at Mystic Journey bookstore, and it was about a red Tara empowerment that was in Eagle Rock. And I had bought the little red Tara empowerment, a red Tara book at Thunderbolts, I think it was. And I was just collecting some books on Tara. And so it turns out that book was connected with this lineage. And that happened after I'd been doing my practice maybe about 4 years. And I met Lama Tsering Everest, who was one of the main students, or is one of the main students of Chagdug Tolko Rinpoche. And she is the holder of this red Tara lineage. I believe their lineage is Nyingma. So I attended the teaching and the empowerment. And what was really special for me, it was the first time I have ever gotten any kind of empowerment from a woman in the Tibetan Buddhist lineage, but also in English. It was awesome. So I didn't have to, I actually, she told everything in English, whereas before it was in Tibetan. So I missed some of the comprehension of it. So I felt that was really special. And I did do the Red Tara practice, the short one, for a while there. And then also I met, as I said, another teacher who was part of the KTD with the Green Tara empowerment. So that made me feel like I was on a good path with the mantras. So what for me was the benefit, one of the things I wanted to share was I think that there's this big gap between the teachers and people that have gone into retreats and nuns and monks and regular people like me that are dedicated to Buddhism in a different level. But I think that our experience, we should share our experiences too, so we can inspire each other and see that it really does work. And you don't have to become a monk or nun to be benefiting from the teachings, especially working with a mantra. And I really do think it's really helping me inwardly a lot. I feel a lot calmer on a regular basis. When I get upset or feel moved, I don't move towards that emotion as quickly as I used to. It does seem best to do something regularly for me because it's easy to get back into the old habits, and we're trying to have good habits. But I think it's important to really have confidence that this can work for you, and you don't have to become fully dedicated in this lifetime to the path. And in fact, there are stories of lay people that don't, and they become enlightened in Tibetan Buddhism. So there's room for all of us. But for some reason, I think that, and I think that's the fault of publications too. They're always doing interviews of people that have done these, taken vows and long retreats. And that's wonderful. But perhaps we should just interview ordinary people that have been doing Buddhism for a long time, and how has that impacted our life? And what do you think about this visualization? And how does that feel for you? I think it's very important. So I would say, I would encourage you to take notes of your experiences, just like with Aleister Crowley in the Magical Diary. It's important to recognize your own inner experiences, and some of them don't amount to anything. And that's why you might want to sometimes talk to an advanced student or teacher to see if it's worthy, but it's still important. And I did do that during this time, probably not on a daily basis, but whenever I had a very powerful experience, I would write it down in case there was something I would forget, which actually I would have forgotten. And I think Thomas Ashley Farrand, he recommends that you keep a spiritual diary, and he says he wishes he'd done it more often, because you do lose some of what is going on once you come back to Earth. But I also want to make you see, or maybe inspire you to see that it helps you just engage in your regular life. And it's not about just going back and having these spirit experiences, but actually doing something that benefits you so that you can interact better and be happier and more content in your life. That's what I have found. And I think mantra is really nice because it's connected more to the voice, and it vibrates in your body, and you can say it quietly, you can sing it loudly. There's some beautiful versions of it. You can traditionally, when you're doing the pujas, the first round is chanted slowly, and then you can quicken it. And sometimes the lamas will say it so quickly it sounds almost funny. At least that's for me. When I first heard it, it's like, how can they say it so quickly? It's like an auctioneer talking. So don't be shy about how you do it. You don't have to say it out loud, though. It counts if you say it silently. And I just want you to know that Tara is really accessible for everyone, and she has different mantras. Some of them are a little bit longer than others. And the other thing I would suggest is maybe doing a little bit of study with whatever you're doing, and perhaps a kind of visualization of Tara, even if it's like you imagine her over your shoulder. And there's so many recommendations you can find from the teachers, which I would suggest learning the instructions from a lama, because I think that is important in the Tibetan Buddhist lineage, which is an oral lineage of passing on their teachings that way. So I would recommend that. But go ahead and just jump in. And I always kept count of how many I did, and I tended to do the same amount every day. But there were times I decided to go further and deeper. And it was really interesting to do that and kind of see what would happen when I would do, say, 1,000 mantras in a row instead of 200 in a row. So that's a little bit about my own experience with Tara. And I hope that you look into just a mantra practice in general. We were talking in our last show with Humberto about difficult emotions and tools and techniques to help us. And this is definitely a tool that can work for everybody. And if you need to find a different mantra, then I would also recommend, again, Thomas's book. I'll put maybe a link in the comments of this video. He has 2 books, Healing Mantras and Shakti Mantras. And there's some really beautiful mantras, and if you might relate to the sound of one or to a deity a little bit differently. But Om Tara Tu Tara Tur Soha, which is Green Tara's mantra, is a great one to start with. So before we get to the end of our show, which this show has definitely moved a little faster than I would have liked it, I did want to share with you my poetry book, Fire Burning on the River. I'll put it up here. Those that have YouTube can see it. This is my second book of poetry, and basically they are devotional poems that I wrote largely in my 20s. And I wanted to close the show with one poem that I wrote to Tara that was based on one of that origin story of her as a princess. And it's called Tara's Vow. In beginningless time, I first appeared in a universe called Manifold Light. My name back then was Yeshe Dawa, moon of primordial awareness, and I was the daughter of a king. I met a holy man then who I wanted to give all of myself to, and so I gathered pieces of the world, the icy mountains, the clear streams, the soft grasses, and offered them again and again. Time passed. I learned the language of trees and stone and found myself at ease among the wild animals. My heart grew full with a new desire, one born of tenderness and fire, to move like the wind whenever I heard a cry. At this the holy man clapped and smiled. Many called him the Buddha Dandubsara. Many called him the way of liberation. I knew him as the true friend. My wisdom expanded. As I grew closer to illumination, a monk approached me, declaring that a woman's body was not fit for enlightenment, and that I should pray now to be reborn a man. How odd, I thought. Did this monk not understand his own origins? No matter, I simply replied that I would always return then in a woman's body, as long as it took to free all beings in all realms, in all times, down to the very last ant. And so I come to you now in your most desolate hour, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you need, whenever you call out my name, Arya Tara. No matter that you have never sung my songs, no matter that you have made me no offering, no matter that you are filled with self-blame, for I have traveled beyond all concepts, beyond all gender, race, and creed, and see in you the true friend who kindly showed me the way. So that's one. I have a couple other to Tara, though there are other poems in this book, and it is available on Amazon. And also, if you're in Venice at Small World Bookstore, so please support them. They're an awesome bookstore. So I thank you again for listening to Spell It Out and watching it, if you're watching it. And I hope that you have many support mechanisms right now to get through these difficult but also very creative times. I think Tara is definitely a goddess for the time. And she just call out her name, even that's all you need, and she'll come running to you. She's really very generous that way, and I find that she's a very remarkable deity. So until next time, stay safe, and we will continue our journey with the esoteric and the obscure next week. Have a great week.